of course, to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Niagara on this 3rd of November. To begin our devotional service this morning, we would ask that you please, you don't have to if you don't want to, but it is printed in your hymnal. And if you'll just bear with me and listen to the opening words. It's entitled Three Roses, and it was written by a favorite of ours, Ralph Waldo Emerson. These roses under my window make no reference to former roses or to better ones. They are for what they are. They exist with God today. There is no time to them. There is simply the rose. It is perfect in every moment of its existence. Before a leaf bud has burst, its whole life acts. In the full-blown flower, there is no more. In the leafless root, there is no less. Its nature is satisfied, and it satisfies nature in all moments alike. But we postpone or remember. We do not live in the present, but with reverted eye lament the past, or heedless of the riches that surround us, stand on tiptoe to foresee the future. We cannot be happy or strong until we too live with nature in the present above time. In the inside cover of your bulletin, there you will find our chalice lighting words. And if you'll please affirm them with me this morning. May we light, we now kindle, inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. Now, in Patty's never-ending struggle to turn you into the Unitarian Universalist Tabernacle Choir, we have chosen hymn number, actually, Patty chose this, and I was grateful, because if I chose it, we would not be happy. I'm not good at it. Anyway, if you'll turn in your gray hymnal to hymn number 170, and please arise as you are willing and or able, or please just sit back and relax as we sing, We Are a Gentle, Angry People.
And could we just do the first 4 verses?
What?
Okay. Yeah, it's a long hymn. I didn't realize that.
We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are sing for our lives. We are. Thank you.
I
Please be
have
seated.
no breath today.
Sorry. That was not bad. Now that, with a little bit more practice, I'm not saying, UU Tabernacle Choir, but it's a step forward. So be affirmed, be affirmed. And at some point, because I do believe discretion today is the better part of valor, but at some point, we will also sing the other verses, which are very powerful and very meaningful. Just not today.
We'll start with them next time.
That's right. Okay. Our responsive reading today comes to us again from our hymnal, and it is called On Turning, and it was written by Jack Reimer. Maybe I'm mispronouncing it. I'm sorry, Jack, wherever you are. It's number 634, and as I begin, if you will follow me in tandem, let us affirm these words together. Now is the time for turning. The birds are beginning to turn and heading once more toward the south. For leaves, birds, and animals, turning comes instinctively. It takes an act of will for us to make a turn. It means breaking with old habits. It means losing face. It means starting all over again. And this is always painful. It means, I'm sorry, forgive me, go ahead. You were right. But unless we turn, we will be trapped forever in yesterday's ways. Turn us around, O God, and bring us back toward you. And turn us toward each other, God, for in isolation there is no life. Thank you. I think I took a wrong turn at Albuquerque there for a moment, but that's all right. Okay. We now come to that person. Yes, we do, it's a person. To that portion of our service that we refer to as honoring our joys and our sorrows. I bring to this portion of our service, it's really not a sorrow, it's a concern, but I have confidence, if I may use the word faith, that it will turn out all right. We recently took our 14-year-old Boston Terrier, Buck, to the veterinarian, and she's amazing, but she gave him a complete clean bill of health. Except he has 2 more cancerous growths on his left hind leg. And she said, I've taken 30 of these off my beagle, and if I'm not telling you to keep doing it forever, but on the other hand, he's still doing all the things that a 5-year-old dog would do, but eat, drink, and all the rest of it. And my wife and I just looked at each other and said, in Italian, familia. And so once again, down the rabbit hole of economic disaster, but for the love of our children, our fur children, Buck will have some surgery in the next couple weeks, and he'll be just fine. I have one other a deep concern, of course, but yet I want to frame it within the context of a joy. We are here today, the Sunday before probably what has been touted, may I say that word again, touted, as probably one of the most important national elections in this country's history. And I'm not going to speak, I think every election is important. I think every time we take our opportunity to express our political will so that we can move forward and grow as not just obviously as individuals, but as a nation, it's a source of great joy. And yet, obviously, we know that after Tuesday, almost 50% of our population, they claim 40, now they're claiming 50. It goes back to that same old story. You just can't make everybody happy. And we're going to have to find ways to lean into each other and to lean into our fellow brothers and sisters in this country to find ways to seek a greater reconciliation, a greater peace, a greater sense of our willingness to look beyond the past and to continue on to a future, as I've often stated, a world, a country, if you will, that works for everyone, no exceptions. So, if you're planning on feeling full of anxiety, that's your right. However, I would encourage, just by the lighting this candle, that we reflect that inner light, call it the divine spirit, call it divine guidance, that somehow, some way, we will find a way to lead a more meaningful and a more abundant life if we but put our commitment to our values and our principles as Unitarian Universalists. Now, is there anyone else who would like to get up? The microphone is at the end of this first row. And if you'd like to share either a joy or a sorrow, we'd be very grateful to hear that and share that with you.
I'm not sure how to frame this either. My name's Meg, about whether it's a joy or a tribulation yet, because I'm a gentle, angry person right now about this upcoming election. And I just, as a UU, a new UU, I'm trying to understand the principles that we take out of here, out into the world and practice them. So I've been trying to do that, and if anybody's interested, some of us are going down in a carpool to Erie on Monday to get some more votes in Pennsylvania, hopefully. But I just want to know that I've done at least something, no matter how things go. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I can, yeah. Paul. There you go.
Well, these are a lot lighter. I used to see a whole bunch of big keys on here. They're gone. I'm fully retired.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Anyone else?
We have Francie on Zoom. Francie, you can unmute.
Sorry. Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Francie Coleman from
Francie
California.
can't hear you.
Oh, I am
Francie's trying
muted.
to talk to us on Zoom,
Oh, okay, great.
Can you hear me?
but her microphone isn't working.
Can you,
We can't hear you, Francie.
can you hear me now? Oh, no? I
She
unmuted myself.
I still can't hear her.
We had that happen last week in our congregation too.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll put in the chat.
No, you're still not coming in.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Francie,
Yeah,
California, but her microphone isn't working. If you want to text it, Francie, I can read it.
yeah. Oh,
No? Okay.
okay. Well,
Yes, ma'am, please. You want here. Or should I make you walk, for God's sakes?
No, last night I called, now I can't think of her name, Hector and from New York City. What's her name? No, I can't think.
Desi,
Desi, I'm sorry. I called
Desi.
Desi. I don't know why. She said she's all right, not wonderful. And I guess that Hector's here at the house here. But everything's going well, and I hope we'll see him again next summer. I don't know.
Yeah, we're
Time. I have called the poor woman going, oh no, I think I might be dying. In any case, about a month ago, my doctor put me on some kind of pill to lower my high blood pressure. Well, 24 days later, the pills didn't work. Yes, last night, there I was back in emergency. I couldn't breathe. It felt like I was wearing a bra 3 sizes too small. And now this morning, I look like a frickin' junkie. But I'm okay. So this candle is lit for Desi. As soon as I told her what my symptoms were, she said, you better go to emergency. Third time she's given me some really sound advice.
okay.
Francie Coleman from California. Her microphone isn't working, but she said she celebrated her 82nd birthday on Wednesday.
Oh, bless her heart.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
So you retire, you forget things. That
Yes.
happens. It's happened to me.
All right. Well, I almost forgot. It's more like an announcement, but
Sure.
during the announcements, I'll be downstairs. So, anyways, I brought chili today that I made last night, and I also have cream of mushroom soup downstairs with lots of crackers and cookies and coffee.
Wow.
I can't tell you how happy that makes me. I love his cooking. Anybody else? Very well then. Excuse me. As our beloved Patty plays the offertory for us, and our ushers arise and go forth amongst you, we remind you lovingly and gratefully that it is through your generosity and only your generosity that it truly makes this UU ministry possible.
Holy shit.
going to start. That was my intro. But it was a lovely solo.
Thank you so much.
Spirit of life.
Sing in my heart, all the stirring of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. In the hand, giving life, the shade of justice. Roots hold me close. Wings set me free, Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Thank you. Again, I bid you good morning. You know, one of the things that is always challenging to me, when I began my journey into ministry, I began to realize that I had some skills and many deficits. But one of the skills I did have, and I was rather surprised at it, was what used to be called inspirational speaking. And now I think it's called motivational speaking, or they have other words to describe it. So basically speaking, I have in very, very few instances ever had a script, a template, very little of that. I have a dear friend in the Christian tradition who thinks that that the Holy Spirit at times is upon me. I also had a mother who would gravely disagree with that, but that's another whole story. But one of the challenges I have when I'm working with our congregations, whether it be in my own church or here or anywhere, is that every month the Caring Circle group that's centered and administered through the UUA, Unitarian Universalist Association, always gives a theme. And the theme always makes me nuts because it's usually a one-word theme, and I'm not good at that. It's like, at that point, you throw me a word, it's like going up, it's like, have you ever, any of you been to a comedy theater? Where the comedian gets up and the person says, tripe. And you're supposed to come up with, all these wonderful jokes about tripe. Well, I have the same problem with some of this, but I'm beginning to learn a little bit more that I can do this. And this month's theme for the month of October is repair. It's repair. And I thought about that word, and I thought about what does it mean to be repaired? We are taught in a very positive way that we are simultaneously a broken people and also a complete people. And that's why we chose the hymn this morning, senior moment, an angry, gentle, angry people. Sure, I remember angry. Anyway, please like me. No. We are a gentle, angry people. And I thought, my gosh, how can you be both at the same time? And yet we find, as you use, or, I want to take it out of the realm of religiosity or even so-called spirituality. As human beings, let's do a little humanism here. As human beings, we recognize in each other a spark of life, a spark of animation, a spark of intellect, a spark, so many different aspects of what it means to be truly human. And when we do that, we can find more often than not that, yes, there are wonderful, fabulous, marvelous, beautiful things to appreciate in life. The beautiful sunshine, the great weather we're having now. I know our Canadian brethren have had Thanksgiving already, but here in the U.S. we're approaching Thanksgiving, so we reflect on all the gratitude that we have for family, friends, that we have many of the things that so many people in the world just do not have. And those are all wonderful things. And yet, as I'm reflecting on that, more often than not, too, when people use the word repair, it's unfortunately not simultaneously, as I've just described, extremely positive and, to some degree, acknowledging the negative. But it is brought forth in extraordinarily negative terms. And it's brought forth in you and them, me and the other. There is dichotomy, there is split, there is gap. And we continue over and over and over again. And you don't need me to tell you this. You've seen it in your own lives and you've seen it in the lives of others. We continue to do the behaviors, the thinking, which motivates and prompts those behaviors to indeed express our need of repair, more often than not in what I will call an opposite direction or in reverse. We go forth and we try to fix or repair others. That's a very, very human frailty. And it's not a human frailty to say to a person, every time you eat spinach, it gets caught in your teeth. That's not negative, that's not bad, that's not critical or even, I'll use the word destructive. It's constructive critique. And if the person says, I like spinach in my teeth, you could say, bless you and may you have a lovely day. And life goes on. But more often than not, people engage, and I said it in the beginning of my descriptive in your program, people want to come and fix us, and they want to fix everything and anything about us that they don't understand, that they don't agree with. You want to talk about Tuesday? That's a big disagreement. The direction of a nation, which ultimately impacts the direction of our world as we know it. Big disagreements. And if you strive to have, and you've heard me use this phrase before, a dialogue where you can agree to disagree without becoming disagreeable, good luck. Somehow that just gets sucked down into kind of a crevice, a pit, a hole, an abyss where we suddenly, logic, reason, compassion, empathy takes a back seat to our need to be correct. Or to put it a more appropriate way, our need to be justified. Because if our beliefs are justified, or the way we see the world and how people function in it, if those beliefs are justified, then we feel, of course, better about ourselves. But where the gap comes, where we fall into, and I do use the word because it is appropriate in my opinion, where we fall into this spiritual and mental abyss, is when we make the presumption that our way is either the only way or one of the very few ways that life can be approached, that life can be lived meaningfully, abundantly, peacefully. And so we continue as human beings to engage in these, I was just about to use the word dialogues, in these holy wars, if it's religion, civil wars, even though thankfully the last time we had one of those, they did use firearms, and we are always prayerfully and hopefully saying that can never happen again. To wit, I say never, but this is our hope, and this is our considered conviction that we can indeed find ways to make all of this work. we hopefully, and especially in our UU tradition, if you truly go over those principles, if you truly go over those values, I do it almost every day. I read them. Sometimes I haven't had enough coffee, and I admit they don't have the impact they do as when I have, you know, presence of mind and a genuine, sincere desire, not just to understand the verbiage, but the spirit or the energy behind the verbiage, to hopefully motivate me to live aspirationally and help be part of the solution to all of these issues, rather than to almost unconsciously fall asleep at the wheel and be part of the problem. All too often, what happens is we get, you know, I don't know if you've ever heard of the book. I'm going to give you the title of the book, and you're going to laugh because you're not going to believe that it is titled this way, but it is exactly word for word the title. Don't sweat the small stuff, ... And by the way, ... It's all small stuff. Think about some of the conversations you have with people. And let's stay away from politics for just a few minutes, because unfortunately that's been too much in the forefront. At least let's use this morning as a bit of a respite from that. I know that's difficult, but let's try. But we engage in discussions on minutia. I have discovered I am not the biggest fan of social media, but one of the things that social media is teaching me is the general consensus of not necessarily the majority, but groups of people, okay, that have very strong views, and in some cases you would almost mistake them, because I cannot wrap my head around this. I just cannot. But in some cases would actually be motivated toward physical violence to prove their point. Let me share one with you. I'm glad you asked. Hot dogs. Okay? Hot dogs. Who puts ketchup on a hot dog? Anybody? Raise of hands. Okay? There are people who have expressed in social media that people who put ketchup on hot dogs should be shot at dawn. That these people are not just ignorant, they're stupid, they have no taste, they are culinary pariahs, and should never be allowed the privilege or the benefit of a hot dog again if they deem it necessary to anoint that hot dog with ketchup. I read this stuff, and at first you think, ha, 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 and then you go, they're serious. And I think of what, you know, my grandkids tell me. I never heard this before until maybe a year or two ago. You be you, and I'll be me. Wow. You be you, and I'll be me. I can put ketchup on my hot dog with no fear of threat, danger, or being ostracized? It's a miracle. And yet people waste their time, their emotions, their energy to do just that. Now, of course, occasionally, just like I've done this morning, it's done with a little, tickle to the ribs, a little bit of good humor, but it is amazing how many people take stuff like that seriously. Which leads me to believe that we as a culture have somehow, going back to the idea of what needs repair, somehow have kind of lost track of some of the things that are important. In Unitarian Universalism, and frankly, in religions like, and you may not know this, and it's not going to be an opportunity for me to describe this faith to any great degree because it's grossly misunderstood, and it would take me a long, long time to correct some of the misunderstanding. But a religion like spiritualism, and there have been a few others, that around the mid of the 1800s moving forward, decided to take their theologies out of the realm of simply belief systems and decided to practice what some of them preached. So you have the uprising of the women's movement, suffrage. You have abolitionism. Freedom riders. And what that does is when you choose a cause, when you choose those things that you recognize are unfair, that have no social justice. You've heard the old expression, it's been on bumper stickers since the 60s, no peace, no justice. But really what it is no justice, no peace. So the seeking of universal justice for all people is something that we really need to, in my opinion, revisit, and revisit in such a way where we will, regardless of the situations of religion, regardless of politics, regardless of anything and everything that we, quote, engage ourselves in the human experience, that we make a solid moral, ethical, spiritual commitment to seek not only justice for ourselves, but indeed justice for all. And that when we look at others as being a mirror of ourselves, and that I will get for you or struggle with you, elbow to elbow, shoulder to shoulder, to get not what you need, but also in getting what you need, I know I'm getting what I need. There is that sense of eliminating a sense of separation, eliminating a sense of the other, and hopefully recognizing what is recognized in nature, as was put forth by Emerson this morning in the opening words, that ultimately we have to recognize that all of this thing called manifestation, creation, whatever you want to use, is interconnected in ways that we haven't even begun to comprehend. And it is imperative for not only our ability to thrive, but our ability to survive, that we begin to acknowledge this and work in meaningful ways toward manifesting it in all of our experiences and our expressions. History, as I mentioned about suffrage and abolitionists and so forth, all of that history informs our current social justice efforts as you use. And so we encourage us to, again, study history. And people say when they come to you and tell you that you can't put ketchup on your hot dog, I remind people sometimes that there are, again, you're obviously very motivated and very committed to sweating the small stuff. Can we maybe take a look at something a little bit larger? Can we eliminate this sense of, and I don't know if you felt it when somebody comes to repair you, fix you, if you will. You don't feel like you've been helped. You feel like you've been intruded upon. You don't feel humility. More often than not, you feel humiliation. So what is in our principles, what is the very first thing we need to do, in my opinion, is this notion of holding a deep, abiding respect for each other. I've said it before, I will say it until I may retire someday. I may put you up here and I'll sit out there and make chili. But that ultimately, to show that respect is to live aspirationally. I may disagree with you 1,000,000%, but I've had those conversations, and they're enlightening, they're liberating, they're freeing, where you can actually, as we have heard it said amongst us, we don't have to believe alike in order to love alike. And of course, my favorite unofficial repairing or healing words to anyone is, your guess is as absolutely as good and valid as my guess. But you see, we are as a species, in a way, we're very young. We don't have great, as a species, if you really are honest with yourself, We don't have a lot of really strong self-confidence. We don't have a lot of strong self-esteem. And many who claim to be humanist will say, well, you know, I don't believe in this thing called God. You don't have to, but believe in life. Believe that life is good, and believe that you are part of that goodness, that productivity, that moving forward, that striving to understand that we're all interconnected and in union with each other, even though that is still, in a very real way, an extraordinary mystery to the vast majority of humanity. But if we can begin those processes, if we can begin those conversations, maybe, just maybe, we can find a way to move forward. We don't have to be what we've been for thousands of years, history repeating itself. The names and the faces change, the technology soars, we now have AI and all this other stuff, but if you talk to the average human being, I really believe that they're not all that much different than they may have been even 5,000 years ago. Same fear, same anxiety, and I'll give you an interesting point on that. Tomorrow night, and it was at my own behest, at our congregation in Fredonia, New York, I have decided to have a vigil for democracy. What does that mean? It means that anybody and everybody who is either a member of our congregation or a friend or anybody in the community can come by, have a cup of coffee. We're going to meditate individually, but ultimately, of course, collectively. If people want to say a prayer, that's their choice. And we're just going to be together for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And the whole purpose of it is to lean in, I love that turn of phrase, to lean into each other. So that if we are afraid, if we are uncertain, that we can provide each other the necessary rudimentary emotions and feelings and support so that we can indeed recognize that unity, that oneness. No matter what happens, by the way, on Tuesday, our principles are not any different, okay? They are no different than they were in the time of Ralph Waldo Emerson. And our values, as are written, are no different. So each and every individual will have to make an individualistic and yet part of a collective choice to continue to move forward to the best of their skill and ability. I'm not an anarchist. I do not support, craziness. But what I'm saying is that in our spiritual life and it's amazing what little things can do to hopefully change things for the better. But we can, in my view, still move forward and have restorative justice. We can heal the I'll call them what they have been, at least in some people's verbiage, the sins of the past, things that have been done to people and not for people. We can forgive and restore from that, and yet in that same breath, in that same, in Aramaic, the word for spirit is rucha. And in that same rucha spirit, that same animating force, that same energy can be utilized to go forth and express that compassion, that empathy, that love, so that maybe in our very lifetimes, we will begin seeing the stirrings of compassion and the stirrings of justice. This is what it means to me to be repaired. This is what it means to me to seek repair without being aggressive, without being intrusive, without being judgmental. I hope that some of the words that I've shared with you this morning have given you room given you pause to consider where you fit into that puzzle. You do have a place. You do have a place. You are welcome. You are welcome. Life welcomes you by the very fact that you are here in this thing called life. And now what we have struggled to do in all religious thinking is find out where that puzzle piece fits in and where we can sometimes comfortably, but many times uncomfortably, strive to move forward so that not by caveat, but life by example can hopefully motivate our brothers and sisters. They don't have to believe our religion, they don't have to accept our political views, but in order to accept the general spirit of which we move. And if we can do that, I really and truly believe that it will be the truth that finally can, and I believe will, set us free. I bid you peace. How'd you like my prelude? No. I'm lost.
Just as long as I have
Breath. Just as Thank you. Please be seated. Our announcements today should be fairly simple. To quote Winston Churchill about Tuesday, keep calm and carry on. Or my other favorite quote is, if you're going through hell, keep going. Pardon me, one more. History will be very kind to me because I intend to write it. I love that man. Anyway, after the service, please join us for refreshments and some of the world-famous, life-changing chili and mushroom soup that Paul has made for us. And we ask you to please join us and engage in some mighty fine eating and of course, some wonderful fellowship. I will be back with you on the first Sunday of December. And I'm always very grateful for that because I am. Now, if you'll please, as we let us have our closing prayer, I call it closing prayer, benediction, and then we will extinguish our chalice. Infinite Spirit, we call it life, we call it force, we call it first cause, animating principle, all that is. We pray that we may acknowledge and ever be mindful of the unifying principle that this force is, was, and ever shall be. We covenant with ourselves, with our own heart, with our own soul, and we covenant with each other, and we covenant with all brothers and sisters on this planet who seek peace, who seek restorative repair, and who seek the restoration of our true nature, a nature that is manifest in the deep feelings of compassion, love, empathy, manifest through social justice, through equity, through pluralism. For if one is diminished, we are all diminished. And yet if but one is uplifted, we are all uplifted. And in that recognition, as we go forth our separate ways, we covenant to contemplate these truths, these concepts, these ideas, and act upon them in whatever way is meaningful and just unto ourselves as we mitigate all suffering that we come upon. This is our prayer. This is our choice. So it is, and so we let it be. Amen. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community and the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
So,
On to the postlude.
yeah.
No.
So, yeah, don't we have announcements? Or is there nothing to be, okay, no announcements.
Okay.
So you of course got my quippy self. So wisdom has been running along trying to catch up with you. Yet you've always been faster.
That is our postlude, correct?
No. Anyway, this song. Is there a disconnect here somehow? There's a disconnect. I've been gasping for breath because of those nasty pills. So I had a show on Thursday. I went regardless, and I did mess up, but not on this song. And I guess it wasn't too bad because they invited me back for Christmas. So this is what I'm going to do because it's still kind of Halloween for me. This song is by a composer, Peter Jenkins. In the moonlit wood where the old tree stood with its trunk all hollow and its twisted limbs, alone I crept with the sky all swept by the flying clouds with their silver brims. On velvet wings I saw him glide, as with a haunted voice he cried, to from a tree nearby, with its arms in the sky, as I looked for his mate in the woody dark. Tiny squeaks from hungry pigs betrayed the nest deep in the bark. An answer came from the leafy height, as with a haunted hunting owl, then swooped and snatched his furry prey, rose in the air and flew to where his mate was still and silver gray. The young were fed, and the owls with pride triumphantly together cried I almost didn't not gasp.